Hey guys, it's Nick Christophers for Mob Tales. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I welcome my good friend Larry Mazza for this Larry Mazza Part 2, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'd like to say thanks, Larry, for coming on again. It's always good to see you.
Well, same here. It's my pleasure. I'll come on anytime you ask. You know that, pal.
I appreciate it. Um, well, today we want to talk about something a little bit different. First of all, your hair looks different. Did you cut it?
It's very short. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, sometimes I get tired of putting so much gel in it. When I cut it real short, I don't need too much gel and all of that stuff. So,
You look
yeah.
like you joined the Marines.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that short. Believe me.
Oh, but it looks good. It looks good.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Makes you look younger.
Well, maybe I'll cut it shorter.
Well, not too much.
Hey, my birthday's next week. Don't worry. I'm getting older.
No, you always no, you don't get older. We can just get better.
Get better with age, right?
Right. Well, I know a lot of people know, pretty much who you are already. You've been out there enough. But for the people that are just, tuning in now, whatever, Larry is an ex-wise guy from back in the day during the Colombo Wars and stuff like that. He was under Greg Scarpa, and he's been through a hell of a lot, not for nothing. But he's changed a bit, and he's done a lot of good, amazing things since walking away from that life. And one of the things is what we're going to talk about today. Is about a streaming site called Mob TV that Larry got involved in, and I was lucky enough to be part of it. And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about it. What's going on with it now? Where is it heading?
Yeah. Well, thanks again for inviting me. And thanks for whoever's watching and whoever came back to watch the second time. I really appreciate it. Mob TV was an idea I had, excuse me, probably about, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago. I was actually talking to another friend about it, that I should give him some credit too. We were talking about all these TV networks, and there's this TV, that TV, this TV, white TV, black TV, HBO, and there was no Mob TV. And it's such a popular genre that we brought it up somewhere, and ultimately along the way, I met with who's now a friend, one of the producers, Joe Paletto, and he loved the idea. And to get you to the end quicker, he winds up inviting Terrence Winter, who wrote Wolf of Wall Street, Boardwalk Empire, Sopranos, Tulsa King, and several more. He's just at the top of the line right now. He invited him to become partners in it, which he did. I'm on the board, which I'm proud to even be that much. And we started under Plex. It was a network that has a lot of sub networks under it. So you can watch Johnny Carson TV, you can watch Lucille Ball, you can see all the roasts from Dean Martin, things, old stuff like that, because it's not expensive. But people still love it. So we had Mob TV. We did 2 seasons. It was going well. We were preparing for the third, but something good happened. Terry Winter stepped down from the Tulsa King to write the script to my story. I'm allowed to talk about it now. We were very, as you know, the industry, people don't like to talk. They don't want the other guy to know what's going on. But Terry told me, talk about it. The script is written. He's in negotiations with a couple of heavyweight networks that want not only my story, but they want Mob TV. So right now, Mob TV is partnered up with Joe's other company, Infamous TV, not to get too confusing, but there's so many networks, as you know. Ultimately, it will be under one of those major networks where my show will air the first time. And then we'll also have Mob TV, so I make a talk show going again, too.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Now, with the episodes that you had before, would they be, included? Can people go back and
see? Absolutely. They were still showing reruns constantly. Those were on, but the problem was distribution. I don't really know the specifics of that, but distribution is the key. to getting it out everywhere. And I know he was working with LG TV for a while. That would have been 50 million viewers. He was working with Hulu and different ones. But now some of the names, Hulu, Roku, Netflix, HBO, which is Max, one or two others. So it's going to land somewhere, but it's going to be a package, which is nice. So it'll give us two things to work on, not only the series, but also, the talk show, among other things. That may be a place where finally Destinies can land, or hopefully, how tough. It's not easy. We have so many people that call and ask, and I'm the last guy in the world to say no to somebody or to try to discourage them. But it takes a lot to get those stars aligned. But listen, if I get there and that happens, I'm sure doors will open for friends of mine.
Well, that'd be great. That's a good way of being, Now, since your book came out, okay, which was a great book, no less, I really enjoyed it. Were you ever thinking about doing like a part 2? Or was that like
Well, you know what? There's a couple of things. I could have, excuse me, and I'm very sorry for that.
That's all right.
It is, like I mentioned earlier, it's my third podcast today, and my throat is starting to feel it. So, because I was sick last week too, I had a bad cold. Anyway, there's two ideas in my head, and during the pandemic, I started writing a story about the bookmaking business, the gambling business, not only the intricacies of the business, but also the characters that come in and out. And it's just like a merry-go-round. People just keep jumping on to gamble, and then you don't see them, and then they come back, and then they became bookmakers. It's just an amazing, funny type of story, the gambling. And it's what is really ironic, if you noticed, Charlie Sheen and Sebastian Maniscalco just came out with a bookie show.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I remember that.
I watched a little of it. I don't think it was well written. It's almost cheesy. It's not really. I'm gonna give it some more time, but I'm not liking it that much. But it's funny. I wonder if I should have kept my mouth shut. Maybe that would have been us doing the bookie show. But I did. I started writing the book, and okay, I'm gonna tell you the first line in the book. And if you're in the gambling business and you understand that world, the life, the very first line in the book, chapter 1, is "Fuck you, give me my money." How I open the book. Yeah, and then there's a guy's getting beat up and whatever, but it turns out to be a little bit of funny, maybe a lot funny, and I meant it to be, a light read. But I talked about this, not so much a sequel, but a prequel, where I was involved in the war, pretty much to end all wars in their life, or the Colombo family, whatever. But don't forget, the Colombos have been fighting for like 40 years. There's been more. This is the third or fourth war. And we could go back and tell the history of the Colombo family, which would tell, get a little bit more of Junior Persico's story in there, because his story hasn't been told yet. And there's a legendary gangster right there. It should be. I know there's a book that came out, but we have the right people in place. Greg Jr. Is another skipper that's around again, Reynolds, Maragni, that can, if they want, I know Gregory would do it, to tell the story of the previous wars, what led up to that, how it was just destruction and all the murders, and the same thing was just going on for 40 years. It got exposed finally and ended. But maybe a prequel more than a sequel. Because a sequel, it would be more like I guess, what are those reality TV shows? I think it would have to be like that. And somebody wanted to do that. One of the networks years ago that had a show called Deadliest Catch. That was an award-winning 8 seasons. They wanted to follow me around from my gym to the nightclub to different things that I do, going out to Eaton, Orlando. They said just to follow you how you're living your life now after everything you went through. And there's more to it, obviously. I'm just giving you the, but it was an idea. So we talked with a sequel, but like I said, I mean, what I'm doing now is good, nice, fun, normal. So I don't know how interesting that becomes, you know, unfortunately to say that. But a reality show, knowing who I was in my previous life, so to speak, could probably could possibly work for a couple of seasons or a book. But definitely a prequel.
Well, you mentioned about the bookie thing, and I'm going to ask you something. I mean, people don't realize, in my opinion anyway, you know, when the guys used to run gambling for years, as we all know.
Right.
And all of a sudden, people say that, okay, you bust a guy for gambling, you bust a bookie or whatever. People think, oh, that's a good thing. You took a criminal down. Meantime, back at the ranch, the government came up with OTB. And now we have sports betting. You see it right on television.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to me, I find that kind of ironic, where they were again the powers that be were against guys like guys that we hung out with doing this kind of thing, which is pretty innocent, really, non-violent.
Absolutely.
And then they turned around and did it themselves. We all know why, because they weren't profiting from it. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Now, I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I'm just curious to get your.
I absolutely agree, and it's something I said. I was caught on an infamous tape from court when I was being locked up, saying how the government is the true family. That's the family. I said something like, Bill Clinton, that's the boss. Hillary, that's the underboss. And I went to Janet Reno, that's the consigliere. I said, went right down the thing. All these congressmen, they're capos. The prosecutors, they're good fellas. The secretaries and all the rest of them are associates. You work for the government, you do what they live by that rule, but they are the family. So yes, they had Vegas. They had OTB. How about horse racing in all the states? That's okay because you're going there, they're winning there. And as long as it's them controlling it and earning on it. And the truth is, OTB didn't survive because they were stealing. They were skimming off the top. The number business, we started that. Not we, our type of people started it back in the 1900s. As a matter of fact, it may go earlier to black neighborhoods where it started.
Yeah.
And then guys like Dutch Schultz or Bugsy Siegel saw they were all making money, so they came in and took it over.
Even earlier than that, down in my God, in Florida, in the Bolita game.
Yeah.
The Cubans did it.
Yeah. So, it's they saw, and it's like what the corrupt agent on our case said, they're not trying to eliminate all of this. They just don't want somebody else controlling it, or like families with a structure. If there's a bookie on one corner and a Shylock on the other corner, they don't care. But if those two are in cahoots, sending up money to a captain, putting it up to the boss, and everybody's doing this, you're becoming a second government. And people are listening to you and not the real government. And this was told to Greg through his guy. That was their game plan. Unions, that was a downfall. Said that was going to be the ruination because you're getting too deep into legitimate world. The restaurant union, the waste management, the fruits and produce, garment industry, all those were overstepping our bounds, and that's why it came crashing down. So now the same thing with the sports. So we had the numbers, we take horses, but they can do it, but you can't. Now the only other side of that is taxes. So if you're doing it and paying taxes, now what's wrong? Well, what's the problem with that? But they're not going to let you get away with it.
Well, do you think these guys, you think bookies are still around? Do you think that bookmaking is still a business?
Bookies will never be gone. I'm going to tell you why. And I said this in my book. I said at one time I'd be the spokesperson for the United States of America because a lot of money was being sent to Costa Rica, tons of billions, where they're legal. They set up these websites. Now, if you're sitting in your house and you want to bet 200 on Kansas City, you're not breaking the law by betting Kansas City to Costa Rica, which is legal. The law that's being broken is not paying tax on that money. If you win and you don't claim it or whatever, but that's your business, and that's private. If you don't threaten somebody or hurt somebody for money, there's no extortion involved. So there's no real law being broken. So I said, they're losing all this money to Costa Rica. Why not just make Las Vegas the central, gamblers' central mecca of the world? If anybody wants to be a bookmaker, they got to do it through Vegas instead of Costa Rica. Set up your Amazon type buildings with all kinds of computers and stuff. And it's not that hard because they're doing it in Costa Rica, and it's a third world country. And charge a guy like me, say I want to become a bookmaker, a tax or a licensing fee, and show some credentials. Then you have a company like the SEC watch over it, just like they watch over stockbrokers. It could be done, but then they're going to lose whatever they're getting on their own now, so they don't share it like that, so, but they're losing a lot of money to states that aren't taking it. Oh, but going to your question, a bookmaker will never be out of business. Several reasons. Reason number one, credit. Okay, you don't have to get in your car and drive to the casino. Okay, you don't have to give your credit card and have your wife know that, oh, why is that 2,000 going to Joe Colombo? Right? That's important. So the discretion. Also, if they have a big hit, they're going to be taxed on that. A bookmaker, street bookmaker, doesn't tax you. So if you win, let's say 10,000 on a prop on a Kansas City bet yesterday, a certain prop that paid 10,000. If you go to the casino to collect, you'll leave them with 6,700. Yep. If you come to Joe Colombo's office, you're getting 10,000. So you're giving up a lot by leaving your bookie if he's a good, honorable payer, and he's a good, he's not. A lot of them go bad. A lot of them cheat. A lot of them don't pay. Those guys will go out of business. But if you're good and it's quiet and it's discreet, until the government really, really wants to, get rid of everybody, you'll be in demand.
Well, that also leads to loan sharks, because they'll say you can't, say you lose, you got to pay back, and a vig as well.
But yeah, so if you lose to a casino, all right, you want to bet more and you don't have the credit to put in, you're probably going to still go to a Charlotte to get the money to put in the cage. So Charlotte's the same thing with them. They're not going anywhere. Just because a bookmaker's put out of business doesn't mean people aren't going to go to a Charlotte. And like I said, they'll go to the racetrack, or they'll go to the Meadowlands, they'll go bet it somewhere.
So you think that part of, the families that are out there, that little part is still somewhat viable?
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing now. With what I said about Costa Rica, the only bad thing is it's not controlled by the families anymore. Now, almost anybody can get online, Google search it later, how to become a bookie. It'll send you right to Costa Rica to probably 50 different websites, and you can research them and see how they charge you per head to get your players on that website. And then you're booking it online, but you're paying a house in Costa Rica where it legitimizes it.
Wow, that's crazy.
So anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. But I'll say this, I'm not recommending it because if you don't know what you're doing, especially in the world today of computers and information, you will go broke real fast. It's not, people think years ago there was no such thing as winners, but I'm going to tell you, it got so big that it's easier to cheat now too. The guy that makes the line, there's hundreds of lines every day on college basketball, NFL, NBA, baseball, when all the games are going on. He puts out bad lines on a bunch of games, purposely bad lines. Most people aren't going to know that. If it's a team like, what's that, just North Dakota State against, Austin, PA. Nobody, who, I don't even know where Austin, PA is, but you can bet it on the board, and they'll put it out where it's probably 5 points out of the way. And they have a syndicate of bettors that go out and hit all these amateur bookmakers. And every game, if you have 5 points in your favor, you're likely going to win a lot of money, and they do. So they hire people to go out and find little bookmakers that are trying to get set up online, and they keep hitting them. So if you don't know about that, they bet you with a robot. So that's how intricate this business got. And if you don't know what you're doing, you'll go broke quick.
Well, now with this, the government are always complaining that, the like bookmaking or loan sharking, whatever, bookmaking especially, that gambling in general was creating gamblers and, that were getting addicted to it and stuff like that. Which is kind of, to me, I find that kind of bizarre because when you watch football, baseball, hockey, whatever, they show you betting lines that you can bet, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's no different. That can cause an addict as well.
Yeah, now more than ever. Yeah. Well, here's my answer to that. I'm going to give you my answer to that. And I've used it. I said it, I think, in my book in different places. 3% of drinkers, people that drink alcohol, 3% become alcoholics. Did every bar shut down because of those 3%? No. It's the same percentage, believe it or not, and I read up on this. 3% of gamblers will become degenerates, where they just can't control themselves, where it's almost they want to lose. That's a degenerate gambler. They can win $1 million. You say, oh boy, let's go spend this, have some fun. They're going to stay there. They're just going to keep on betting and betting. And, eventually you're going to give it back. That's why people that hit the lottery or a big jackpot in Vegas, they're broke in a year, because they're degenerates. The other 97% are not. They're just betting the game to enjoy it. If they win, they win. If they lose, it's like paying $100 to go see a movie today. If you take your girlfriend to a movie, it's $100. By the time you pay the $23 ticket, depending on where you are, $25, buy some popcorn, and so it's the price of admission. Same thing with the game. I couldn't watch that Super Bowl without money on it, so I bet it legally, of course, and I was able to enjoy the game. But I split. I didn't win or lose because I had the under, which was a winner, but I had 49ers, which was a loser. But if I had won, I wasn't going to look for something else to bet. I'll wait till the next time I want to go watch a game, And if I lost, I'm not going to chase it and say, all right, what did I lose? A couple of 100, 500, whatever it was. I'm not going to go chase, because I'm not a degenerate. When I go to the casinos, I can't even play blackjack or craps because I get mad at myself and I get mad at the dealers because every time I have a 19, they have a 20. If I get 20, they get 21. And then I start getting almost mean to them. I says, are you kidding me? Every time I have a number, you beat me every single time, And so I don't. I generally don't. I found the game to play. And Jimmy's been telling me for a long time, my partner. And now my wife and I, when we go to Atlantic City or Vegas or even some places that have the little machines in their bars, roulette. You could bet easy, small, and take your time. Sit there for 2 hours and not get hammered, you know, because you get lucky and hit one number, it's 30-1 or something, you know. So anyway, but the other games like craps, I know I'm going to lose. I know I'm going to lose. So I'll go. I'll say, all right, I'm going to go for 500. Let's fool around. We throw the dice, yell and scream with everybody, have some fun, blow off some steam, get 2 or 3 free drinks. And if I walk away with any of the 500, I'm happy. One time, Kelly, my wife, got on a roll about 45 minutes.
Nice.
That's big money to be made. I don't know the game well enough. I won whatever X amount. She got as much in tips from the people at the table that were winning 50, 60,000 just on that 40. Unbelievable. One guy canceled his flight. He couldn't leave the table. And then when she finally crapped out, they passed the dice around, you know, everybody passed, give it back to her. She went again. It didn't last that long the second time around. But and then another time, we were up a little bit, but I had tickets to Tom Jones. So we were winning and the table was having a ball. And I said, hey, we got to go. The show starts in 10 minutes. They were mad at me. The pit boss, everybody, you're winning. You guys are doing great. Why you leave on a good roll? I said, let me, I got first row seats for Tom Jones, you know. So, but, you know, again, to go back to what you said, you can't close every bar in the world, and you're not going to close every casino and every track for those 3%.
Right.
That become total degenerates where they can't control themselves. Now, some, you know, there's people that use drugs that are using way too much, but they're not addicted. They could stop. You know, Friday night, Saturday night, they just got to go out and do their coke or do their drinking, whatever they're doing. And it's the same with gambling. You know, some people could overdo it, but they're not degenerates. You know, there's 3%. So.
But on another aspect, if I know things have changed since you left that life and stuff like that, has there ever been a time that you miss it? That you like said, you know what, I miss this life. You know, do you ever stop and does it ever happen?
A lot, of course it does, because, you know, outside of the, I guess the strictly business end of it, there was some goodness. There was good being, you know, walking through the neighborhood and knowing the people there liked you and you know, helped keep the neighborhoods good, things like that. Going into a place where they recognize you and you get treated well, a little better than the common average person that walks in. Yeah, it is. But you know what, Nick, I got to tell you, I built my own little life now where I still get respect. I make a good living. You know, I've been blessed with different things. I really didn't need that life to get the things that I enjoyed then. I enjoyed it then, yeah. And the other thing, it's not the easy way out. People think that life is the easy way out, you don't want to work with, but it was a lot of work. There was a lot of hours. There was a lot of bloodshed. There was a lot of heartache, you know, to make it to the top or on the way to the top or to start earning the big money. And realistically, you're giving a lot of it away to your superiors. You got all this exposure because the Grim Reaper's your boss, so they're watching him 24/7. You know, there's a chart that just came out in 1984, which made me, I guess, 23, right? 23 years old, or 83, and I was 22. That they had the whole family tree. There's guys on there that you know, that you heard of, that have bigger names than me, weren't even on the chart yet. You came all the way down to the bottom after the hierarchy, and it said associates of interest. Larry Mazza, Jimmy Del Mastro, Carmine Sessa, because I was closest to Greg.
Right.
So now, and the thing was, Larry was in their sights. I just saw it on one of these things. Larry was in their sights way back in, I think, '83. You know, so, and then the comments came, well, if you're around Greg, what do you expect? You're right, exactly right. That's what I'm saying now. You know, that's um, par for the course.
Well, since you mentioned Greg Jr.,
Mhm.
who I believe is not part of that world anymore.
No,
Now you obviously know him very well.
yes,
And I know Greg Jr.'s been through a lot. And I mean, I'm sure is his mental state um more stable than it was before. Now, I know he went through a lot and he wasn't doing very well. Because I heard that from from
yeah.
Linda.
Mhm.
So is it awkward speaking to him, considering, the
No,
history?
no, we're on the same wavelength. Okay, the people that's awkward to talk to is when they want to put the father in the throne, like he's still the greatest gangster ever. Okay, he was as tough as they come. We know that. I have some fond memories for sure, but to be what you were all those years, there was a lot of young kids that came up idolizing him that he corrupted. Okay, uh, and it just tarnishes your reputation. Okay, so people that want to talk highly of him like he was, you know, a made man. It's not true. It's not true. He was a killer's killer, but to be a made guy, you're supposed to have some ethics and listen to some rules. He broke every single rule. Every freaking one of the 5 rules that are sacred to us was broken by him. And most of the guys broke somewhere between 3 and 5 of them, including myself. So it's not, Gregory's on the same wavelength as me, Greg Jr. He'll never forgive his father. He threw us all under the bus at the end. He helped Alley Boy. He could have certainly helped his son. Could have said, I was supposed to be on the top of that indictment. I was the boss, not my son. And he would have maybe got the 20-year kingpin thing dropped. You know, he could have said that Jimmy and I were just, we were loyal and we drove him places, but it was him and Carmine Sessa that did the murders. Make it a little less. Maybe I could cop out to 10 years, you know? But instead, he said the war was him, me, and Jimmy. It's documented. So there's not a jury in the world that, if he says that in his deathbed confession, is not going to convict me. And it got Alley Boy off. And Alley Boy and his father knew about him. So we could go on and on. It's
Yeah.
horrible. But Gregory, like I said, is on the same wavelength. He's doing okay health wise, because being out of the can, you can do things to help yourself.
Sure.
The right doctors, the right medications, the right foods, exercise, fresh air, a little sunshine, a lot of things that, we take for granted. And he's got a very strong possibility for a documentary. And when he does, he's going to probably go on a circuit, and I'll talk to him about coming on with you and some other, friends that. Yeah, it'll be a great show. I already interviewed him for Mob TV, and we wanted to hold it off because it was such a big name in the game that's people want to hear his story. So we're waiting for something to develop, and now with the a potential documentary for him, he'll go on a circuit to promote. But we're very tight. We're close. Again, because we're on the same wavelength, and he knows what I went through. I know what he went through, and he never cooperated or ratted or did anything wrong. The problem he had was he almost beat a boss to death in the can. But when you're in the can, everybody's equal. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And this guy mouthed off in a very bad way, and he got what he had coming. I was actually proud of it when I was in another institution and I heard about it, So And when he was in, and again, he'll be telling this story better than I can, but I'll just give you a little outline of it. He had a couple of run-ins with terrorists. And because he was in the hole and they mistreated him, they thought he was one of them, that he hated the government, he hates everybody, wants to blow everybody up. And they confided in him. He gave this information about some bombings, the original one at the World Trade Center. There was some information on the Oklahoma City bombs. And they ignored him because they thought he was making it up. He was trying to get out, but to me, that's not a rat. You can't even call it the same thing. There's innocent people that are going to get blown up in the World Trade Center. What is he supposed to do while he's there? Think about it.
Yeah.
Would you want him to keep that to himself? Who's he going to tell? He gets in touch with his lawyer and he says, listen, this is what they're doing. They're going to blow this friggin' building up. The lawyer goes, they find some backing that it looks like it really is going to happen. And you get some heavyweight prosecutor that's more worried about his conviction getting overturned or him getting some play, getting out early. So she keeps stars in her, stripes or whatever you call it. And I would want, or Oklahoma City bombing. How many innocent people got killed there? And they were doing another one. He led them to where the arsenal was, where they were planning another bombing, because he was right next to McVeigh's partner. I forget his name. McWinters, McMichael, or something, Mc something. Yeah. Yeah. And so, the mob frowns about talking to the government, helping the government. But Luciano did it. Meyer Lansky did it. About 3 or 4 heavyweights did it, helped the government. They called it, we're patriots. That's why we.
Greg Stropper did it.
Who's that?
Greg Stropper did it. Help the government.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, I don't buy that. But he's not active. He's not looking to get back into it. If anybody has a right to ask for a little something back from, guys that owe him money from back in the day, he didn't hurt anybody except a couple of terrorists, and he didn't even hurt them because they didn't listen to him. But no, he's living his life. His first probation woman would not allow him to leave a certain area, would not allow him to talk to any of us. She specifically said, make sure you don't talk to Larry Mazza. If I hear you do, I'll violate you. Then later on, when we said we were going to do the show, she said, as long as he comes where you are, that's why he couldn't come to Vegas or California. I forget where we did ours.
We did ours in Vegas, in LA.
Oh, LA, yeah, because we did one in Vegas too. Right, so you were season 2. Then this new probation guy he has is much more reasonable. He said, I don't care. You touch base with some old friends, whatever, just don't break laws. You break the law, I'll put you back in. If you don't, if you just live in life normal. And they both probation people went and they said, Larry, you can't find anything in the whole 22 years he's home. He's been almost a role model, just so, there's no reason not to. If they looked and saw the kid's still getting in trouble, he's assaulting people, whatever. There's nothing. I just live my life, so.
Well, I mean, on that subject with Greg, with Junior, at first, didn't it feel a little bit awkward? Did you guys feel awkward talking to each other in the beginning?
Well, no. Listen, we stayed in touch through the telephone while he was away. I know how it is being in there and not having anything to buy from commissary, so we would send money, different guys, and try to keep him where he lived a little better. And once we spoke and we knew we were on the same wavelength, and we both knew that neither one of us knew about the father. He was wondering if I ever had an inkling. I say no, and he says I had no idea. There were little things.
Before you even go, that's a good point there. I'm stunned personally how nobody knew for what 30 years. How is it possible because, you know,
Well-
guys on the street are smart, they're street smart. They can see bullshit from a mile away. I don't understand how.
Well, first of all, you're right. Ali Boy told me him and his father knew. You knew that.
Mhm.
Okay, told me he knew. So that started me thinking, who else knew? I was, wondering, but it goes back to greed. He made so much money, and I believe there was a case that he saved them on, a big tax case. He saved a bunch of heavyweights, including himself, 15 years for IRS tax evasion. He's the one that did it. They know that. They know he works some magic, but he saved them. They didn't hurt me. And he goes on to make a fortune, and he does hits that most people can't do in the middle of broad daylight with buses and cops and everybody. He didn't get. So they would not hire him, they would order him to do the hits that were precarious, extra tough to get away with. And they used them. They used them. So that's the type of life it is. You just use each other. But that anybody else would be killed because he's breaking the
Oh,
rules.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they used each other. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who deterred it?
I said, it sounds like they used each other.
Oh, yeah.
They used him.
Definitely. And and like I said, the money's the almighty dollar is the main thing. And he made a fortune. They didn't want to blow that. But it's still.
I heard that Carmine was he wasn't doing what Greg was doing, but from what I understood, from what I heard anyway, from certain sources, that Carmine was actually part of the top echelon program.
Junior,
I'm sorry?
I think the paperwork that you saw or was circulating was he was listed in the article, but the name that was blacked out, I believe, was Greg Scarpa. And I think he was talking about Junior in that. And the way it circulated, people got a rumor. Listen, if he knew about Greg, he's just as culpable. Terrible to let that person exist. That's number one. Junior's mistake was when he represented himself. That was something you're not supposed to do. But he thought he had a trick. While he was representing himself, he admitted he was a good fella. So I'm not the boss. He was trying to get that 100 years knocked down. He said, I'm not the boss. I'm part of the organization. I'm a good fella. I'm in, any one of us done that? We're dead. But he did it, and his thing was, my lawyer said it, not me. But he was his lawyer. Now, yeah, that's what I think, right? They don't call him the snake for but if you think about it, I don't believe, he's doing 130 something years and his whole family's in jail. I don't believe that at all. I think that was taken out of context. His name showed up in his top echelon informant, but you see this blacked out name. Why would they black other names out and not him?
Yeah.
I think most of those blackouts.
I didn't think
maybe
of it.
one or two other, maybe one or two others. But again, there's levels. There's levels of cooperation. You can do it from the street. You can do it by pleading out bad and admitting things that your friends did, or admitting things that you did that your partner's also being accused of. So if he admitted it, so there's a lot of things like that. On our case, the first 5 guys that went in admitted there was a family, admitted there was a war, and admitted they were good fellows. Right there, they made the rest of us a perfect racketeering trial. Because that's what they have to prove first. There's a family, they admitted it. There's a war, they admitted it. And there's made guys in this organization. So it became a.
So by them admitting it, it's supposed to shed off some years from their sentence.
Well, it did. They did. They came in and they all got 10 or 8 or 10. I forget what it was. So, yeah.
Well, before we end the show, because you and I can forget about it, talk forever.
And it goes fast, doesn't it? It goes by quick.
Yes, it does.
But listen,
Um,
schedule another one down the road. We can, I'm sure there's a lot of other things we could talk about, so no
Oh,
problem.
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But my last thing I want to ask is, anything that you want to leave us with that we should, like, fans of yours, people that like your work, and your book, of course, anything you want to leave us with that we should be aware of that's coming
Well,
up, something like
I'll,
that.
I'll start out telling you about the book. Most people know I wrote it myself, self-published. You can only get it at www.larrymazza-thelife.com. I sign every book that goes out. To this day, there's not a book I sent that I didn't sign and make a comment of some kind. But I'm lucky enough now to have Terrence Winter. He wrote my script. He has an outline. He told me when we were talking, after I told him about the war and we went through that, he said to me, that's our 5th season. So he has high ambitions. I have a producer that is ready to put up significant money along with the companies. And there should be a show pretty soon. When that happens, I'm probably gonna have to hand the books off to a bigger publishing company instead of my own. And I won't be able to sign the books anymore, but I'll still be humbled and thankful to people that are buying them or enjoy the story and support me, mentally, not financially, because that's important too. So that's coming, and but I'll never hide on you. Don't worry, Nick. I'll be around. I'm
I
gonna.
know.
What did Ralph Cramden say? You like the honeymooners?
Love him.
Remember the people you meet on the way up. You're gonna meet them on the way down.
That's
Remember
correct.
that, Ralph Cramden? Oh yeah, yeah. I'll always be Larry. Don't worry.
Awesome, man. That's a good line to leave the show with. Excellent.
All
Well, thank
right.
you, Larry, once again. I appreciate it. And
Well,
we'll talk
thank
again
you.
anyway, eventually.
I'm sure I'll see you soon. And thanks for the invite. And thanks. I'm gonna cut my hair a little shorter next time.
All right. Take care, Larry. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too, my brother. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. That was a great show with Larry Mazza. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment if you like. We definitely appreciate it. And we'll check you guys out soon. Thank you.